I'm Kurt Whiteway of Marshfield, Vermont, USA, and we're here in Dachau Master Camp. There were 209 Dachau, and this is April 1st of 1995. And we're here as David and myself, David Israel, from Davis, California, and we're here to research the truth of what happened here 50 years ago today, and to eliminate a lot of the misconceptions of the history of what happened at that time. And
hi, I'm David Israel. The last time I was here was 50 years ago. We've been around the camp several times this week. And we're going to start, not here where we are now, but we're going to start at number 4 up there, which was the Arbeit Macht Frei gate, and that's after the entrance to the camp. We're also going to go up, right up to the corner up there, number 11, and that's the crematoria area where the ovens were and the gas chambers were. And most people who come to the camp are unaware that that was completely outside the camp. That's why many people, even who were in the camp, survivors of the camp, didn't realize what was going on there. And they say that such things didn't happen, because that was not accessible to any of the prisoners that were in the barracks area of the camp.
Can you tell us a little about the group of men who were eyewitnesses at the camp who are pooling and collating their information?
Yeah, we're a group of about 20 ex-GIs going from the rank of private up to general who were interested in what happened in Dachau in 1945. We come from all over the United States, California, Vermont, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Texas, Colorado, all over, and we communicate and accumulate all kinds of information from soldiers all across the United States who contribute their knowledge to what happened that day, to find out exactly what were the happenings that went on in Dachau on April 29th, the day of liberation, 1949.
Are you discovering any new information while you're here in Dachau this week?
yeah, we brought a lot of information that the people here in Germany and that the museum themselves did not know about, that we've discovered. But we've also been swapping and come up with some very surprising information from here at the museum, down at Munich there, and now when we get home, it's going to take months to analyze and cross-reference all this information. I do want to point out one thing, that I was in the 99th Division as a staff sergeant. I did not come to this particular camp, but I was in several camps just east of here at a real horror camp in New York, known as Dachau 3D. We were in Munzburg, Landschuh, and earlier in the north at the terrible camp of Hadamar, was under the euthanasia program. But I am searching all of the 209 Dachau and trying to assimilate the information so that we can better understand what happened down here, including, of course, the master camp here at Dachau.
Some of the things that we've been able to determine since we were here, and many of the pictures that are on file at the archives in Washington and in different museums in different places have captions that give misinformation. Some of the pictures that we identified through the help of Barbara Distel, who is the curator of the museum here at Dachau, and who does an absolute marvelous job, was to determine that some of the pictures marked Dachau were in fact not taken at Dachau, but another camp which was liberated the next day called Halle. And it's very, very close to Dachau, but you can determine from the topography and from the census and from certain other aspects that those pictures were in fact not taken at the camp in Dachau. And that's part of the work that we try to do here.
So you're going for accuracy.
Absolutely.
We also were able to determine that some of the pictures would show, for instance, some of the German soldiers that were thrown out of the watchtowers at various places specifically at number 9 up there, they claim that they were thrown into the moat, and we've been able to determine that in fact they weren't thrown into the moat, but they were thrown into the Worm River, which flows outside of the camp, while the moat itself is within the barbed wire inside the camp. And it's a very important factor for those of us who try to pinpoint that.
Thank you.
You got to keep the hand up here, and right?
Hey, you want me to get you up?
No, I'm not. I'm fine. I'm just directing the traffic of what the heck is going on, like Lyndon.
All right, go ahead and tell them now.
There you go.
Now tell them about Lyndon up here on this parapet.
Tell them the whole thing. General Lyndon's troops came in, 3 jeeps came in across this bridge. This bridge is over the river. The river is flowing right out here. And this river runs outside of the camp, which is very significant since the moat that everybody talks about was within the electrically wired fence. You don't see the moat over here, we'll see it from another area. And this is the Shore House, and that's the Shore House gate.
That's where the bodies were thrown, the German bodies.
The bodies were thrown from that number 4B guardhouse into the water. And now we'll go over to the gate and get you over there with high by my right, Kirk.
This is the famous gate of the work session 3 that the Germans would set up here for the person to come through here. Of course, it was a false hope for them. Because once they entered this camp, most of them were not going to ever survive the camp coming.
The original sign from the gate, except this Arbeit Macht, that's the original. This Frank part, some illustrious GI, somehow or other got it home and took it as a souvenir, and so this has been replaced. These are original, but this is new.
And what does the sign mean?
Work session 3.
It means, that's what, they had a way of saying that, which meant that the only way you're ever going to get out of here is through the smoke going up to the sky.
But this same sign was in very many camps all over Germany at that time. As I say, it was just a false hope for them.
They used all kinds of expressions which had secondary meanings. For instance, they never referred to concentration camp as such. They, in their euphemisms, they call it a service station.
Wouldn't talk that way. Where we're at. Okay.
Now, here on the right-hand side is the administration building. This was the paper control of the camp and so on.
On my left.
On my right.
You're right.
My right. And on my left is a special building. This is where the Germans kept the prime prisoners of Europe. The King of Belgium, the Prince of Bavaria, Leon Blum, who was the Premier of France, many of the other prime prisoners were kept in this special building. They were all little cells, and we'll show you some of it in a minute. But they were separated, and they were given special punishment for conditions other than all the prisoners, the 33,000 prisoners that were in the big compound.
These people were referred to by the Americans as VIPs, what we commonly call very important personages. The Germans called them prominenti, prominent people from different parts of Europe. And why they were kept here, some of them were kept here for years. The only reason that anybody could figure out legitimately was that they were being kept to use as hostages at some time in the future to be traded off, like for vehicles or munitions or who knows what. We never know. There were some British secret agents that were kept here. The best known one was Payne Best, who was here for a couple of years, who tried to make a deal with the Germans and was captured on a phony pretense and kept here for years. And finally was released on the day of liberation.
One of the prime prisoners was Bishop Naimola. And he became one of the very famous. After his release, he was kept for 5 years in a cell here in solitary confinement, not to see or talk to anybody except occasionally the German guards. He eventually, after release, became the head of the World Council of Churches. So these were very prime prisoners in here. Now let's take a walk in and I'll show you one of the cells. C, wasn't it?
Yes, this was,
Yeah, this is the tower. The tower behind me is Tower C. And this is where Margaret Higgins claimed that she commanded about 20 German guards to come down and surrender to her at this particular point. Whether we have not been able to entirely verify that, but at least it's in her writings and so on.
Margaret Higgins was in a group of jeeps that came in through the front gate with the 42nd Division, namely General Linden and some of his officers. In the meantime, Sparks and the 157th, the 45th Division, was coming in through the back, through the railroad tracks, through the SS quarters in the back where they had factories and warehouses of all kinds. They had a hospital for the German soldiers, they had a prison for the German soldiers, and the 45th Division was fighting their way through that area without knowing that Linden was coming in through the front with Margaret Higgins and Peter First and some of the other officers. Margaret Higgins and Peter First came to this and there were German soldiers in the towers, although there were white flags flying from the towers. They still had their machine guns and they still had their weapons. And there was some shooting that took place from the towers.
So it was pretty chaotic. It was not an orderly
It was an absolute total chaos. And nobody, of course, knew that the International Red Cross worker had been in the camp 2 days before, had made a deal with the head SS man in the camp, who'd only been here for 2 days, to surrender the camp intact. And he had made all kinds of stipulations which the Germans agreed to, but the Americans, of course, knew nothing about this. And the fighting that was going on between the Germans and the Americans was in spite of the fact that white flags were flying from the town.
So the Red Cross had made an effort to make it orderly.
Yes, they did. And there was all kinds of rumors at that time that, and orders, that from Himmler, wasn't it? Destroy the whole camp and blow up all the people here. That did not come about. The commander would not agree to kill all these people. Approximately 32,000 was left. Prior to that, they were moving thousands of people out of the camp and moving them south so that they wouldn't be liberated by the Americans. And so there was great chaos, and there were many death marches and other types of marches, and at the same time, other camp commanders from like Flossenburg had sent 16,000 prisoners from Flossenburg to here. Ironically, my own men and came upon them about the Kelheim area, and we heard all the screams and everything else, and we came to the road and saw the German soldiers beating people to death, raping them, shooting them, bayoneting them, not shooting them so much. And when we saw that, and the bodies all down the road, everywhere, as far as we could see, we became infuriated and we engaged the German guards, and we didn't take any prisoners.
Yeah, but how many have got here for 16,000?
We found out now since that the right-hand side of that column that we missed, that we're still going toward Dachau, about approximately 4,000 of those prisoners and the SS guards arrived here in that camp.
So were a lot of the people panicking?
But they couldn't panic. I mean, they couldn't do nothing. They were so badly starved and improperly clothed. As you can see, the weather here at this time of year is very bitter. Yeah. And the German guards had dogs with them and so on. It was total chaos. And to say the people, the prisoners themselves were so helpless. They couldn't do much of anything, basically because of the horrible starvation and everything else, and all the brutalities, that they were just being beaten to death, and just the rest of them would just keep on walking down the road as zombies.
Panic was not the right word, no. It was chaotic was the right word, and any of the German soldiers that tried to quit and turn around and just lay down their weapons and go home, they were shot on the spot by the SS.
Yeah.
So there were soldiers that were laying down their weapons. They would be killed immediately. And there were death marches coming from all different camps into Dachau, and there were death marches going out of
But that was the way, and the conditions, well, the conditions were clean, of course. All right, this is, we're inside now. This is the prison building for the flying prisoners, such as Leon Bloom and Naimola. And where the prisoners were held in solitary confinement for years on end by the SS. They would never see anybody, basically, except an eye of a guard peeping in the guard through that little hole in the doors, or to have probably a tray of a little bit of soup or something, some kind of food, whatever they were serving them there each day. But this was solitary confinement.
How many cells are here?
Oh, that I don't know. I don't know if I was saying that, but you can see there's an awful lot of them all the way down this building.
And how many buildings?
It looks like easily 100.
I would say 125 started double building.
Now there's a second floor to this. True. They ran upstairs. Yeah. So there's a second floor. So they had a lot of crime prisoners from all over Europe. These princes and politicians from the overrun countries were confined here. You can imagine what it did to the human mind.
It's good because this map is the prisoner compound. The rest is the SS part of the camp that went all the way around the prisoner compound, and it shows the administrative buildings and the sleeping quarters, the warehouses, all of the facilities that went into the rest of the camp, which was approximately 6 to 8 times larger than just the prison.